What's going on, world? Welcome to my podcast. It's Just Different with Ty, where I talk about sports, social, political issues, you name it, everything under the sun. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And if you want to come on here and have a debate with me, I may entertain it, depending on what it is, but you better know what you're talking about because I ain't playing no games with you. So with that said, let's get into it.
Welcome to It's Just Different with your host, Ty.
I had to do some real research on this topic right here. It's been talked about. A lot of people talk about, but I kind of, not so much I shied away from it. I just didn't really know. I didn't really know. So I had to do my due diligence and do the research myself. So we're going to talk about it. Population control. Population control is not a hoax. Let's get right into it, y'all. So I was looking at an article today and seen something that, sparked my interest. It was something along the lines of population control, trying to stagnate the numbers, trying to keep down the numbers in Africa. So there's an article I'm going to read off real quick. It was in, I believe it was The Guardian. And the headline of this, like I said, it caught my attention. Finland coalition in chaos as far-right minister quits over climate abortion remarks. So the new Finnish coalition government has been plunged into a crisis as a key minister was forced to resign after it emerged he had called for Finland to support abortions in Africa to combat the climate crisis. Again, he called, again, I'm going to read that again, just a little bit of part of that. He had called for Finland to support abortions in Africa to combat the climate crisis. Now, this was a minister for Finland, and he also made some, racist jokes, whatever have you, or he thought it was racist jokes. So he has a little background to him. So I'm thinking to myself, why would this man want to support abortions in Africa? Again, we all know, well, not all of us know, but a lot of us know about the invasion and the colonization and the oppression of African people in Africa by Europeans. So again, this is just another form of colonization to me, to want to support abortions to help climate crisis. So I'm trying to figure out how does supporting climate, crisis, how does abortion, how does one, both kind of work in the same deal? So then I started doing a little bit more research, and I started looking at more things on the long lines of population control, right? Then I ran across this article by Henry Kissinger. And for those of you that don't know, and I read this out of the Human Life International, but just one source, one article. But for those of you that don't know who Henry Kissinger was, he was the Secretary of State at the time for the United States government. And the title of this is The Genesis of the U.S. Government Population Control. The United States National Security Control Council is the highest decision-making body regarding foreign policy in the United States. I'm going to read that again so you can hear that. The United States National Security Council is the highest decision-making body regarding foreign policy in the United States, which means the United States is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. What they say sets the tone for other nations, basically. On December 10th, 1974, it completed a top secret document entitled National Security Study Memorandum, or NSSM-200, also called the Kissinger Report, since Henry Kissinger was Secretary of State at that time. Now, I've heard of the Kissinger Report. I didn't really know at that time what it was, but I definitely heard of the Kissinger Report. And, now I had to look and dig deep into that. So now we're going to go further down and read some things along the line with this Kissinger Report. So you know what the purpose is. The purpose of the Kissinger Report, again, or the NSSM 200, the primary purpose of the U.S. government population control effort is to maintain access to the mineral resources of less developed countries, or LDC. Less developed countries is to maintain access to the mineral resources. And how are they doing that? By the United States government, their military being possibly military in the world. And they're going to, poor countries, mainly, poor countries throughout the continent of Africa. And they are stealing all the natural resources. So how can the projection of Africa be so poor yet so rich with all its resources? And you know why now, but it's not only United States of America, it's also France, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm gonna read a little bit more for you guys. And there's a little bit down here. It says, in order to protect the U.S. commercial interests, NSSM 200 cited a number of factors that could interrupt the smooth flow of material from LDC to the United States, including large population of anti-imperialist youth whose numbers must be limited by population control. And it says the document identified 13 nations by names that would be the primary targets of U.S. government population control effects. Okay, so there's a list of 13 other nations that they wanted to target in this whole movement that they were trying to do. Okay, and now when you stroll down, as you see, there is the map of the world, and you can see all the places that are highlighted in orange to show you these are the places that we are going to basically experiment on. Now, underneath that is very important. It says, according to the Kissinger Report, elements of the implementation of government population control programs could include the legalization of abortion, financial incentives for countries to increase their abortion, sterilization, contraception use rates, indoctrination of children. So they're indoctrinating our children with nonsense, but that's a whole nother topic we're going to go to for a whole nother day. And mandatory population control and coercion of other forms, such as withholding disaster and food aid, unless less developed countries implements population control program. Now, we know, as I did a story a few months back with Vice President Kamala Harris going to certain countries in Africa, Ghana, and a few other places, trying to, and it just didn't start with them. It also started with Obama. I think he did it with Kenya and Nigeria, I believe, where he went there and basically said, if you guys don't accept this or accept this, we're going to stop aid, and we're not going to give you guys any money to get out, to help improve your country, which is impoverished and whatever have you, So this has been going on for decades. This is nothing new. And now that's just from the Kissinger Report. And now when you go to another report, all right, I'm going to another article. This is the FEE Stories, FEE Stories. The topic is program that forcibly sterilized thousands of Peruvian women. The program is said to have led to the forced sterilization of over 200,000 women in the late 1990s. Again, and if you stroll down a little bit, okay, and it just talks about how basically in countries under heavy U.S. influence occupation, the U.S. government has a habit of pushing political problems that would be too unpopular to implement in the United States. And if you scroll down a little bit more in this article, you got to read this article. Very good article. And it talks about forced sterilization in Peru, paid for by Americans. I'm gonna read this off again. Forced sterilizations in Peru, paid for by Americans. So it just talks about in recent months, there was media outlets was trying to highlight this, and it also says basically that the program is said to have led to the forced sterilization of over 200,000 women in the late 1990s. Again, just reiterating what I'm saying, or what I said earlier. There's a side thing there that says, like many programs aimed at reducing fertility and population growth, the program was largely aimed at lower income women and members of indigenous populations living in the Peruvian highlands. Sounds kind of the same thing like America, right? But we're going to get to that later, okay? So now we go on to another article, right? Somewhere else in the world, in Vietnam, okay? And forgive me if I mess up the name, over 1,000 Montagnard women report forced sterilization. And the demand, and it talks about how the women have reported that they have been forced to meet with Vietnamese authorities who demanded the women get surgically sterilized. And it says the demands come with force, bribery, or threats. Okay? The demands come with force, bribery, or threats. And this is in a cultural survival article, and with Vietnamese women that were in Vietnam at that time. There's a foundation now that's based in the United States. And the women there believe that this is a form of ethnic cleansing. Okay. So now again, we got Peru, we got this Finland, ex-Finland minister guy trying to say he support the abortions in Africa for good climate crisis. Now we got Vietnam. Now let's go to India. Okay. And this is out of the BBC, I believe. And it's the title of this is India's Dark History of Sterilization. All right. Now, if you go down, it talks about an astonishing. First, this happened. It says the drive to sterilize began in the 1970s. Okay. So 1974, December 10th, I believe, Henry Kissinger has this secret meeting where they want to push this agenda. Not that long after, 1975, in India starts this whole sterilization world population thing. And there's a little part here where I'm going to read to you what said an astonishing 6.2 million Indian men were sterilized in just a year, which was 15 times the number of people sterilized by the Nazis, of course, So this is something that has been been happening since the 1970s, all right? And not too many people talk about this, but it's still going on. Now, I'm going to go to another article that's going to surprise, because I saved the best for last. I saved the best for last. I could be here all day. I could go to other countries. I could go to the Philippines. I could go to different countries in Africa. I could go all, but what I want you to see is that this is mainly being done, and you can look at countries as far as being poor in a sense, or maybe poor at that time, but mainly in countries with people of color. All right. I haven't really seen no real articles where this is going on in Sweden or anything like that, or Norway. If there is, somebody could show me, but to this amount with hundreds of thousands and millions of people being sterilized intentionally, I haven't seen stuff like that in those, in those places that I just had mentioned. And again, this seems to be happening in places where it's people of color, all right, and indigenous people. Now, I saved the best for last. So now we're going to go on to where? America. Okay. And this is from the National Women's Law Center. Okay. Forced sterilization of disabled people in the United States. I'm going to read it again. Forced sterilization of disabled people in the United States. And now I'm going to stroll down. Okay. Stroll down and I'm going to read something to y'all that I want you guys to see. Forced sterilizations. Okay. And it talks about today, all right, today, present time, 31 states plus Washington, D.C. have laws allowing forced sterilization. Okay, so I'm going to stroll down just a little bit more. I know y'all can't believe it. I know y'all really can't believe it, but it's true. And here's a map. And it's saying right here again, states that allow forced sterilization. This map shows that states that allow forced sterilization, all right? Again, it says today, 31 states plus Washington, D.C. have laws allowing forced sterilization. And it's highlighted and there's different colors where it tells you where it's banned at. Forced sterilization is banned. And the only two states where it's banned is North Carolina and Alaska. I'll say that again. Where it's actually banned, forced sterilization is banned, is North Carolina and Alaska. Now, it's a light blue and it's not clear, and is a light purple, and it's saying that it is not clear if forced sterilizations are allowed. So they're not even sure in some of these other places if it's not allowed. But the states that they know for a fact where it is allowed is highlighted in dark purple. New York, which is where I live. Okay. New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, Florida, Georgia, California, Oregon, Nevada, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, Kansas, Arkansas, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky. Did I miss anything? South Carolina. All right. Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland. This is where they allow forced sterilization. So which means the judge will allow this to happen. And you probably basically got to fight for your life at court to explain why you do not want to be sterilized. Okay? Again, New York, this is where I live. Supposed to be, but they can force sterilization. Oh, and Hawaii. Let me not leave that out. Hawaii also, they can force sterilization in Hawaii. So I just want you guys to know that you are living in a country where majority of the states, they do allow forced sterilization. And we're not even going to talk about what's going on, all the reports, I'll say alleged, but all the reports going on in the detention centers in those in the United States of America, ISIS, with the custom enforcements. You hear a lot of women in there say that they are forced to be sterilized. There are reports out there, right, where women make the claim, where it's alleged, again, I'll say alleged, women that are in prison, men that are in prison in the United States, where they say how the warden or the judge say, hey, you want to get your time down? Hey, you want to get your time down? Do this. And they're forced to do this, or they're forced to do that. There are reports out there, y'all. Y'all just got to do your research and look at it. All right? So with that said, I'm just going to leave you guys with that and have you something to think about. You can agree to disagree. And it's just a scary world we living in, man. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yes, United States, they talking about, liberty and all these other different things and democracy and all this stuff. No. This map shows something else. So I just want to put that out there. So with that said, Thank you guys for watching. It's Just Different with Ty. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And with that said, peace and love.